Well, welcome in. We are the North Carolina Budget and Tax Center. So at NCBTC, we envision a state where every person can reach their full potential and achieve well-being through the support of trustworthy anti-racist institutions and systems that we all participate in building. You can find out more about us and our values at ncbudget.org/about-us. I am Victoria Pittman. I'm the community building coordinator with BTC. I use she, her pronouns. And tonight we're also going to be joined by Chasen Carter, who will lead us through a dance routine in between our educational content. Here is a brief overview of how our evening will go. I want to take a second to note that questions are welcomed and I invite you to ask them in the chat. However, because I want to respect your time and I know we got delayed, and I don't know if there will be time for us to answer them live, but my coworkers are monitoring the chat. All questions will be recorded, and if they're not answered during the webinar, we will send out a follow-up email and answer your questions. And remember, you can email us anytime with questions at info@ncbudget.org. Okay. So before we kick things off, I want to do a quick recap of what we learned in session one. So session one was our fact or fiction busting tax myths. We learned that low tax rates don't make our economy stronger or attract more jobs. Tax cuts don't benefit everyone equally. There are tons of trade-offs for tax cuts, despite what lawmakers tell us. And investment in people-centered policy is what actually fuels a strong economy. We also learned a hard truth that corporate tax cuts, we also learned a hard truth about corporate tax cuts that will help us contextualize what we learned tonight. Businesses decide where to locate because of the workforce, connections to markets, infrastructure, and the quality of life for employees, not because of low tax rates. And in North Carolina, it's small homegrown businesses that drive job growth across the state, not big corporations. Tax cuts and low tax rates just mean we have less public money available to invest in the policies and projects that research shows lead to economic growth. Okay. All right, folks, let's buckle up and it's time to talk about the corporate income tax. Okay. So what exactly is the corporate income tax? We also call this the CIT just for short. So the corporate income tax is a tax on the taxable income of a corporation. What is taxable income? It is basically means revenue minus expenses. So that's what we call profit. Who pays the CIT? Corporations that are structured as C Corps pay the corporate income tax, and a C Corp is just an IRS designation for a type of business structure. Corporations that are structured as a C Corp are able to have unlimited shareholders, can issue multiple types of stock, and can be owned and operated in multiple states or countries. All right. So nationwide, over 95% of businesses are structured in a way that means they do not have to pay state or federal corporate income taxes. Examples of corporations that are subject to the CIT are the big names that we all know: Amazon, Apple, ExxonMobil, Walmart, our very own Duke Energy. In North Carolina, most corporations that pay the CIT operate in multiple states and report profits of more than $25 million. And about 84% of all corporate income tax collections in North Carolina come from these companies. Okay, so here are just some quick facts about the CIT in North Carolina. The corporate income tax rate for 2026 is 2%. Unless under current law, it is scheduled to fall to 1% in 2028 and then to 0% and be completely eliminated by 2030. The rate has already been drastically cut since 2013. In 2013, corporations were paying a state income tax of 6.9%. North Carolina's current rate is already the lowest in the nation among the 44 states that have the corporate income tax. And the average rate among our neighboring states is more than twice as high as ours. Okay, so now that we've got that context out of the way, I am going to let Chasen lead us through our first dance routine. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see her. Let's see. Okay. There she is. Hi, Chasen.
Everyone is well. I'm gonna try to position this the best I can because the chair I used originally, I no longer have. Hello, my name is Chasen Sparks. I am a performance artist, plus size model, and newly becoming Zumba instructor. We're gonna do a quick little dance break, movement break, just to get the energy up. So, what we're gonna do first is we're gonna do a couple of quick stretches. I'm gonna introduce you guys to the song, and then we're gonna go through part one as efficiently and as quickly as we can. Um, Welcome to my lovely home. This is my bedroom. So, the purpose of this is for everybody of different mobile abilities to be able to participate, right? So, I will be doing these moves seated. Please do them as you feel the most comfortable. And remember, this is curated so that folks can move their bodies. So, please put in your best effort to do some movement. Okay. So first we're going to stretch out our arms. Go ahead and stretch your arms to the side. Loosen up your muscles a little bit. We are going to be using our arms and our shoulders some. Go ahead and stretch your arms out, a nice reach. Then pull up. Stretch them out at the top. And then we're going to go back to the middle and then reach back down. You can do them straight next to the sides of your chair. Perfectly beautiful. Then go ahead and sit up as straight as you can. Extend your back, put your shoulders back. Try to extend your spine as much as you can. And then I know y'all can only see part of the way, but reach out your leg as far as you can, straightening out your thigh and your calf, pointing your toes. And we're going to do that for each leg just to get a little warm up because we're going to be doing some movement. We want to prepare your muscles. So, the song we are going to be doing our dance break to today is Nissan Altima by Doechii. Because it's Pride Month and Juneteenth, I wanted to choose one of my favorite LGBTQ Black women creators. And this song is just really great energy. I'm going to go through and show you the moves, talking through them once, and then we're going to try to do it together once. I know you're moving, so you can't really ask questions, but if you want to hit the chat or if you can come off mute, if you need me to repeat something, let me know. But the first part is going to be easy, so don't stress it too much. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is a rhythmic stretch, okay? 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, bring it back. Reach out, bring it back. Reach up, bring it back. Reach side, bring it back. Okay? Real easy first part. Okay? So we're going to start again. You got a little bit of time to catch the beat before we begin. Get the beat helpful to be able to feel how we're supposed to do the motions, okay? 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, good job. You can see some of y'all cameras. Good. Okay, that's just the first part. Don't forget this part. We'll do a cute refresher in the beginning, but the second part, we're going to pick up speed just a little bit. So I hope y'all feel a little warmed up, a little excited, and I can't wait to come back for part 2.
Thank you so much, Chasen. Okay, and I also love Doechii, big fan. One of my favorite concerts I've ever been to. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen again for y'all. Okay. So I saw a question in the chat that I do want to actually address real quick because I think it's a great point. How have C Corps spent the money they have saved with the reduction of the CIT? So BTC has done analysis and has found that 9 out of every $10 of money saved from CIT cuts flow out of state into the pockets of shareholders. So that money doesn't necessarily recirculate back into the economy. It goes back into the pockets of their shareholders. And I think that's important context for us to have as we move on to our next part. All right, so to help us better understand who benefits and who loses from corporate tax cuts, I thought we'd do a deep dive into one corporation that North Carolinians love to hate, our very own Duke Energy. Okay. So a little bit about Duke Energy. It is a C Corp that is based in Charlotte, North Carolina. They service about 10.3 million customers over several states, but nearly half of their customers are in North Carolina. Duke Energy is a regulated monopoly in North Carolina. It's overseen by the North Carolina Utilities Commission. Duke Energy is also guaranteed a 10.1% profit on their investments in North Carolina. The cost of those investments are passed directly to customers in our bills. Duke Energy also ranks number 145 on the Fortune 500 list, making it one of America's largest energy holding companies. And for those of you who may not be familiar with the Fortune 500 list, it's a list put out every year by Forbes that ranks the 500 largest corporations that are based in the US. And they make that determination based on their total revenue from the previous fiscal year. So this means that Duke Energy is the 145th largest US-based corporation. Okay. So we know that Duke Energy bills have skyrocketed for folks over the last few years. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I'm trying to manage two screens and I'm really having a lot of trouble tonight with technology. So thanks y'all for bearing with me over here. Okay, here we go. So since 2020, Duke Energy ratepayers have experienced huge increases in monthly bills. And the average monthly bill has raised by about $50 in between 2020 and 2025. So that's nearly a 45% increase. So if you're ever wondering what is driving up our energy bills, fuel costs account for approximately 50 to 66% of bill changes month to month. Gas prices are volatile and have been pretty much steadily increasing since 2021. Storm recovery is now an additional line item in your bill. You'll see it as like a storm recovery rider. In 2021, Duke Energy added about $2.44 per month to the average bill for major storm recovery from hurricanes and tropical storms in 2018 and 2019. And then in 2025, an additional about 17 cents per month for the average customer for Helene recovery. And what that means is Duke Energy repairs damages to their electrical infrastructure and they pass those costs off to customers so they can recoup what they spend. And then rate increases over the last few years have caused a significant spike in month to month in our monthly bills. A 3-year rate hike plan from 2023 to 2025 added about $18 per month to the average bill. That was their largest rate hike in history. And then they filed for an additional rate hike in 2025. They filed for a rate hike requesting a residential base rate hike of about 18% for the years 2027 to 2028. So they will add about 13.5% increase in your bill in 2027, and then the final 4.5% in 2028. And the math is showing that this will increase household bills by at least $20 to $30 a month. And this hike does not account for the increased fuel costs, which make up 50 to 66% of bill changes. So, oh, here we go. Duke Energy reported profits of $5 billion in 2025, well above industry standard. So between 2021 and 2024, Duke Energy Carolinas reported an average profit margin of 19.07%, which is well above the industry standard of 12.8%. In 2025, then CEO Lynn Good made an annual salary of $1.5 million plus $16 million in stock compensation annually. Duke Energy is, I mentioned earlier, guaranteed a 10.1% return on equity. That essentially means the more they spend, the more money they get back. And in addition to the 18% residential rate hike increase Duke Energy wants the NCUC to raise their return on equity rate from 10.1% to 10.95%. So we're going to do a little activity together in the chat and find out just exactly how much, oh my gosh, how much profit we're each paying in our bills to Duke Energy each month. So let me get this link for y'all into the chat. Let's see. Here we go. Copy. Okay. If you guys navigate to this link, I'm going to give us about 3 minutes or so. Go to the link. You can see in your monthly bill, you can type in, let me share. You'll see a screen pop up that says, I'm going to share this screen here so you can see your monthly bill over here. So if I type in Duke Energy Carolinas, which is my bill, and I say our last bill was $150, I can see that $32.55 of my monthly bill goes to Duke Energy. They take 21.7% of my electric bill as profit. So if other folks want to share what they find out in the chat, I'd be curious to know, what are we each paying in profits to Duke Energy? Okay. All right, and while we learn what we're paying in profits to Duke Energy, I'm going to bring Chasen back, and she's going to lead us through part 2 of our dance routine.
Okay, so I'm gonna go. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go through and I'm going to review part 1 of what we've already done for our dance, and then I'm going to talk through part 2. So pay attention. I'm gonna do it and talk through it, and then I'm gonna show it for us to do together. And if I've got a little bit of extra time, we'll do it one more time. Okay? So we're gonna start from the beginning. And remember, the more that you try to engage with the music, the more fluid the motions will feel. Okay. Okay, ready? This is the second part. Red toes. Red toes. Okay. I know that was a little fast. I know that was fast. So the second part, I told y'all we was gonna kick it up a little bit. I meant it. So the second part, you can do a couple of ways, okay? The first part of the second part of the dance, like a body twist with a midsection pop. So you want to start all the way at the side with your arm and then take the 4 beats to come all the way across. Now, if you're like me and you like a little flair, I'm gonna do a little bit of a pop. It's gonna be like a yeah, you know? But also, if you want something a little more calm, you can just do a little bit of a hop. Like instead of the in, out, just do like a up, down, so you can catch the beat. So if you're doing a hop, it looks more like this. And if you're doing a pop, it looks more like this. Okay, whichever you prefer. So we'll do that each side. This way, and then this way. And then we're going to come back to, I think this is my right. And you're going to do a spread. You take this knee and just bring it out as far as you can. And then again, you can do this one of two ways. The same knee you brought out, you point your toe. So you can just do a toe point, stick your leg out and point it as far as you feel comfortable, sitting up. Or again, it's Pride Month. You can add a little flair, which would be like a top. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a knee out, stretch, toss is the full move. But if you want to just keep it simpler, you could do a knee out, toe point. Okay? And we're going to do that for both legs. I'm going to run through it one more time so you guys can see it all the way through. So y'all can see it all the way through. Then we'll do it together. And I'm going to start from the beginning. Remember, we're starting from the beginning, okay? Stretch in, stretch in, stretch in, stretch in, up, wait. I think I did that backwards. That's okay. We'll add the part now. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Knee out and throw. Knee out and throw. Knee out and throw. Knee out and throw. Okay? Yeah, super cute. Great job. Okay, so I know this is a little quick, okay? So what I will say is if you, and I also messed up a little bit this second time. I apologize. If you feel like you need to cut the moves in half, you can. So if the knee out and throw is too fast, you can go knee out, 2, 3, 4, throw, 2, 3, 4. Take the dance in whatever way you need it to be. So the next time we do it, we're going to go through these two parts. We'll include our final part, which will be a little bit slower. The middle just picked up a little bit. And we're going to put it all together towards the end. The second time, I'll be doing the slower motions for anybody who needs to take a beat. But for those who feel like they got it, you got it. And I'm hoping to see it.
Thank you, Jason. Okay. Let's see. I'm seeing lots of profits that Duke Energy is taking from us. We've got 52, 54.24, 49.91, 44.05. Seems like maybe they don't need a rate hike. Let's see. Okay. So I want to introduce us to maybe a new concept for some folks, corporate welfare. And before we really dig into what corporate welfare is, what that means, I want to break down something that I think is important for us to understand. How much is $1 billion really? Remember, Duke Energy profited $5 billion in 2025. So what does that really mean? Let's put it into perspective. A million seconds equals 12 days, but a billion seconds is 32 years. A million pennies stacked on top of each other is about a mile high, and a billion pennies stacked on top of each other is 870 miles high. 1 million ants would weigh about 6 pounds, and a billion ants would weigh over 3 tons. That's almost what an elephant weighs. And if you make $45,000 a year, it would take 22 years to make $1 million, not including taxes or expenses, but it would take 22,000 years to make $1 billion. And you might be thinking, these examples are kind of silly. Why are we spending time on this? But I really think it's important to understand the true weight of the number when we talk about a billion or more dollars. Studies have shown that our human brains can't naturally conceptualize numbers this large, and we certainly can't comprehend just how much money that truly is. And when voters can't mentally experience the scale of $1 billion, then we can't shape well-informed opinion about wealth policy. So, like I said, Duke Energy profited $5 billion in 2025. So let's take a look at their income tax return for the state of North Carolina. So Duke Energy as a whole profited, their pre-tax income was $5.071 billion. That was tough for me. The income tax payment they made is $0, but they received a NC State income tax refund of $4 million, which works out to about negative 0.1% of their total income being paid in North Carolina state income taxes. Duke Energy Carolinas, because Duke Energy owns multiple subsidiaries in the state. Duke Energy Carolinas made $2.1 billion in 2025, paid $39 million in state income taxes, and that's just about 1.9%, which is just about exactly what the corporate income tax rate was. And Duke Energy Progress made $1.282 billion. They paid $9 million in state income taxes, and that's about 0.7% of their total income in state income taxes. Okay, and they're also this is from our friends at ITEP. In 2025, Duke Energy is one of the 88 corporations that paid $0 in federal income taxes. So it's safe to say that we are all paying a larger share in state income taxes than Duke Energy. I'm going to go ahead and show us a video to dig into exactly what corporate welfare is. Please bear with me because I've had so much trouble with technology today. But we're going to watch this short explainer to get a understanding.
And Trump.
And let me make sure my audio is also shared. Okay. I'm going to put the Spanish captions on for our folks in the translation room. So many languages, look at that. There we go. Okay. Folks, let me know if you can't hear this when I press play, please.
And Republicans in Congress railing against so-called welfare programs, by which they mean programs that provide health care or safety nets to ordinary Americans. We almost never hear them complaining about another form of welfare that lines the pockets of wealthy corporations. We must end corporate welfare now. Several ways corporations get rich on the taxpayer's dime. Most obvious comes through subsidies or tax breaks for certain businesses or industries. Consider the fossil fuel industry, one of the most profitable and privileged sectors of the economy. Every year, oil companies get to deduct millions of dollars from their tax bills for the cost of new wells, oil exploration, and other drilling and mining expenses. It's been estimated that repealing these special tax breaks would save taxpayers $39 billion over 10 years. Other examples of corporate welfare include billions in government subsidies for agricultural conglomerates, pharmaceutical makers, tech giants, and defense contractors. Other industries don't get these benefits. Meanwhile, most families don't even benefit from tax credits and deductions for childcare. State and local governments are also handing out corporate welfare, often with no strings attached. In 2013, for example, the state of Washington approved a record $8.7 billion handout to Boeing in order to maintain and grow its workforce within the state. What did Boeing do? In the following years, it laid off more than 12,000 workers in the state. State and local tax breaks for corporations are estimated to cost local schools almost $2 billion a year in lost tax revenue. It's argued they create jobs, yet nationwide, not a single new job is created, and most of the jobs are merely moved from state to state. Now, how do corporations get this corporate welfare? Well, follow the money. They spend hundreds of millions on lobbying and campaign contributions. Here's an even more insidious example of corporate welfare. When corporations don't pay their workers a living wage, those workers have to rely on programs like Medicaid, public housing, food stamps, and other safety nets, which means you and I and other taxpayers end up subsidizing these low wages so those corporations can enjoy even higher profits for their executives and wealthy investors. For example, every year, Americans spend an estimated $153 billion in taxes and on programs to subsidize McDonald's and Walmart's low-wage workers. Here's the bottom line. When corporations get special handouts from the government, it costs the rest of us. We have to pay more in taxes to make up for these hidden tax breaks, subsidies, and loopholes. In turn, we have less money for good schools and roads, Medicare and national defense, and everything else we need. So the next time you hear conservatives railing against welfare handouts for the poor, remind them that we should really be cutting corporate welfare, unnecessary and unwarranted aid for dependent corporations.
So Duke Energy benefits from public infrastructure like our roads and water, and they rely on publicly funded workforce training programs to support their operations and train their workforce. They make billions in profits, and their executives make tens of millions of dollars a year, while the average Duke Energy employee makes $129,000 a year. Instead of paying their fair share for use of taxpayer-funded infrastructure and programs, they get to charge us an arm and a leg for, let's be honest, pretty mediocre service to line their pockets, all while cashing in a multi-million-dollar refund from our state government. And I thought it was important for us to understand what corporate tax cuts really are. Welfare for multi-billion-dollar corporations. No strings attached handouts from our government into the pockets of profitable corporations and their shareholders. Money never to be seen again for our communities who are desperate for it. So let's talk a little bit about what our state could do with $1.5 billion. So why $1.5 billion? It's estimated that when North Carolina eliminates the corporate income tax, our state will lose $1.5 billion in revenue annually. So with $1.5 billion, we could raise teacher pay by an average of 10%, fund free public school for all public school students, and provide subsidized childcare for nearly 75,000 children who need it. And that's all together. All of that equals $1.5 billion. Okay. I'm going to bring Chasen back to give us a break while we mull that over and finish learning the last of our dance.
All right, y'all. So we are on the last portion of our dance. I'm super, super, super excited so that we have time to actually run through it. I'm gonna just start at where the new part begins, just so you can see it and I can talk through it. And then we'll go through it actually together because I'm realizing doing it all at once, good refresher, and also is cutting off some of our learning time for the last parts. Again, if you need to cut the timing in half, you super can. Do whatever works the best for you, okay? Rewind it just a touch. Okay, this is the last part of our dance, okay? It'll be a then down. Up, reach all the way up to the sky, and then all the way down to your toes. And then lean, 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 like a wiggle, like a worm, like a wiggle, like a worm. Then round, 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 round. Okay, so the whole purpose of this end part, is to really extend that spine, really engage that core as much as you can. So, with as much energy and as much reach as you have, when we go up, I want you to reach as far up as possible. Like as far as your fingers can extend is as far as I need you to go. And then when we go back down, I need you to try to touch the ground as close as you can. Now, like I said, I'm going to be doing the slower, like the offbeat movements for folks who need to slow down. But if you feel as though you can do it faster, definitely do it faster. So I'm going to start from the beginning. And we're going to run all the way through. While I'm right here, are there any questions, comments, concerns? Cool. Okay, great. Remember, I'm doing the slower beats. So if you feel like you can double it, totally double. But if you can't, follow me. It'll be perfectly fine. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Knee. Toe point. Knee. Toe point. Reach up. Come down. Reach up. Come down. Then wiggle, 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 circle, circle, push hands, circle, circle, push back, circle, circle, push back, circle, circle, yeah! And that's it. That is our dance. A lot of this is really, we are focusing on a lot of core movement. We are focusing on a lot of stretching your arms, a lot of stretching your spine. So when you're doing this, try to keep that in mind, that these are the areas we're targeting. But at the end of the day, have fun. It's Pride Month. It's Juneteenth. I'm having a great week. So I want you all to feel the same energy that I'm feeling. That's why I picked this song. That's why I tried to pick these moves so we can feel bright and bubbly and fresh. So let's do it. From the beginning to the end, I got total faith in y'all. We're going to do great. I love to stop for my energy. So if you need one for yours, that's cool. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. Up. Down. Up. Down. Reach. Back again. Reach back in. Now pump, 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 and pump, 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 pump. Knee out, toe point. Knee out, toe point. Now reach up again. Now to the floor. Reach up. Now to the floor. And wiggle, 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 and wiggle, 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 and circle, circles. Switch hands, circles. Switch hands, circles. Last hand, circles. Period. Good job. Fans, I got hitters, I got fans, I got stands, and then stands do they not. I love that. Y'all did great. I had such a great time moving around with y'all today. I appreciate the NC Budget team for having me as always. This is always a great time to do with y'all. Remember, dance is about having fun and moving your body. So you can't do it wrong. Don't judge yourself for it. You should just embrace the energy of moving your body around. I hope y'all feel as great as I do, because I feel great. Again, the song is Nitan Ultima by Doechii. It is an explicit song. It's a great explicit song, but the clean version is always on YouTube or anything. Just like to give folks a heads up before they walk into it. Thank y'all again for having me, and have a good night. This is good information, and you should engage with this organization. Yes. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Chasen. We so appreciate you and the energy you bring to the space. Ugh, and what a great song choice. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna answer a question that I saw in the chat real quick. How does Duke Energy get a tax refund if they didn't pay any taxes? Which is a great question. So Duke Energy is a corporation that essentially the tax refund that they get is due to special credits and incentives that they are given by the government. And I can get more details on that for you from our research team that did the analysis for this part. And I'll be sure to share that in the follow-up email, a little bit more detail. And another question is, why is the General Assembly lowering the tax rates when this is going to rush us to a fiscal cliff? And that is a great question, and the question that we are also all asking. Well, for what? Why are they doing this? I will say, Duke Energy is a corporation that spends hundreds of millions of dollars on lobbying. So there is a great chance that our General Assembly members are receiving a good chunk of change from Duke Energy. And we can find you some more resources to dig a little bit more into that. All right, let me share my screen again so we can get through to our final portion of the evening. And thank you all for hanging on. I know we started a little late and it's close to 7:30, but I only have a few more slides left. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about what's at stake in North Carolina. So some of you may know and some of you may not know, ballot measure SB 1080, which is called Lower Taxes for All NC. It's a constitutional amendment that was pushed through the General Assembly. Where's my notes? Okay. So last month, lawmakers quickly pushed through multiple pieces of legislation to put some harmful constitutional amendments on our ballot in November, veiled by very positive language, lower taxes for all. This language is spun by supporters as relief, but what that really means, it is a personal and corporate income tax cap at 3.5%. For reference, in 2018, North Carolina voters approved a constitutional amendment to cap the state income tax at 7%. So we already have a 7% tax cap in our constitution. This new amendment would cut that limit in half. So what that means for our state, it caps the income tax at a rate lower than we've ever had before for our personal income tax. It prevents lawmakers from passing a graduated personal income tax like we used to have pre-2013. and a higher corporate income tax rate above 3.5% that could restore a more equitable tax code. It creates a greater reliance on more regressive revenue sources like sales taxes, fines and fees, so which all hit lower income people the hardest. So when you make less money, you have to spend more money to make ends meet, so you end up paying a lot more in sales taxes. Fines and fees, you might end up seeing that what once was a publicly available service that you could access for free, you now have to pay a fee to access. It makes it harder for our state to provide adequate public services that actually create opportunity for everyone. And it damages our state's credit rating, this is a big deal for businesses in the state. It damages our state's credit rating, making it more expensive for governments to borrow money when needed and less attractive to new industries. And this chart over here is showing the orange line shows the current law of the personal income tax rate, and then the gray line shows the proposed income tax rate under this, if this amendment were to pass. So under the current law, we would hit the trigger between 2018 to 2034, dropping the rate to 2.49% sooner. And this new proposal kind of slows that down, but ultimately our taxes will go from 3.99 down to 2.49%. So it's not going to keep our personal or corporate income tax rate at 3.5%. Our current law still has a trigger system where it will continue to reduce down to 2.49%. It'll just happen a little bit slower. So just a little bit more. If this ballot measure passes in November, it will permanently lock in tax cuts that benefit the wealthiest households and most profitable corporations. 69% of tax cuts go to the richest 20% in our state. It'll reduce our ability to raise revenue for future needs by $14 billion annually. And it'll leave local governments with few options besides cutting local services and shifting costs downward onto families. So the bottom line is that this proposed amendment is not relief, it's crumbs, and it won't make life more affordable. It won't make services more accessible or efficient. This chart here is showing you what the proposed tax changes under the House and Senate deal would be. As you can see, next year's tax cuts in 2027 would give most North Carolina households less than $170 or less. And I really wouldn't call that relief, especially not in this economy. $170, maybe you could get some groceries for a couple weeks, depending on how big your family is. And we know that most North Carolina households would receive $170 or less because the median income in North Carolina is $72,400. All right. So tying it all together, just because tax rates are lowered and revenue is lost doesn't mean that costs go away. We still need to pay for things to provide the services that our government is obligated to provide to us as citizens. So corporate income tax elimination and a corporate income tax cap in our state's constitution is not a win for lower taxes. It is corporate welfare that places the burden of lost revenue onto each of us. As we've seen today, lower taxes for corporations don't equate to more good-paying jobs, affordable services, or thriving communities. Lower tax rates just mean less ability for the state to raise the revenue needed to fund essential services and programs that they are obligated to fund. When that revenue is lost, those costs don't just disappear. The money has to come from somewhere. And if it's not coming from multimillionaires and billion-dollar corporations, then it's coming from me and you. Okay. That's all I have for you tonight. I want to thank you all so much for being here. I've got a few action items for us. The first thing you can do is go to ncbudget.org/choosenc and sign our petition to keep the corporate income tax in North Carolina. You can subscribe to our emails at ncbudget.org/#subscribe. This is how you can stay up to date with us. And as some amendment work starts to come forward and we need all hands on deck to get this Vote No campaign going, we'll have updates for folks on how you can get more involved in that coming a little bit later in the summer. And as we've discussed tonight, these proposed amendments to our state constitution aren't just about policy. They're about who has power in North Carolina and whether future generations will have the ability to shape our state into one that puts working people first. BTC is working hard on rapid response communications, trusted analysis, and gatherings like this one to share what's truly at stake behind the misleading ballot language. If you are able, we invite you to become a sustaining donor today at $10 a month by going to ncbudget.org/donate. Your monthly support helps turn tonight's conversation into sustained action and will help us really be able to spread the word and find that pathway to victory in November to make sure we defeat these ballot measures. And the last thing you can do for us, and all of these links I will also share out in the follow-up email. I would love to get your feedback on this presentation. You can go to ncbudget.org/presentation evaluation. Just make sure you put Making Connections in the title of your response. This helps us shape how we communicate with folks and how we use these spaces, and it is very much appreciated. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. That is all we have. I'm gonna make sure I've written down questions that maybe we didn't get to. And if you have other questions, I will be sure to share how you can get in contact with us to ask those questions. We love to hear from you. It brings us great joy. Thank you all for bearing with me with the many technical difficulties I had tonight. I really appreciate you guys. And we'll see you in September for our next edition of Making Connections. Thank you.